Hi, my name is Inkie Wells. I have been performing with Cyanide Circus since last year. I was invited to join the team. I'm 37 years old and I am a sideshow performer and flesh hook suspension performer. I've wanted to try flesh hook suspension ever since I was a teenager. I had seen it on TV. I saw a documentary about it. I wish I could remember the name of the one. It was back in the days where like BME Zine were some of the major resources online for finding out about heavy mods and body modification in general. And even further back than that, all of those 90s shock talk shows that happened that had people on like Enigma and Lizard Man and those kinds of folks. I was watching those as a kid growing up in the 90s and thinking how amazing it was and how beautiful it was, and how when I grew up I wanted to do that. The first time I saw suspension, I immediately thought to myself, that's something I have to do. Like, I have to do this. Flesh hook suspension, to me, is about pushing my own boundaries and reclaiming my pain. And it's a very personal and a very moving experience every time I do it. It never gets old. It never wears off. For me, I've always been one to want to push my limits, like physically, mentally. I've always been one to want to take on challenges and overcome. And it's one of those things that just drew me in. There's so many elements to suspension. There's the mental aspect, there's the physical aspect that you need to wrap your head around and that you need to overcome in order to be able to do it. And a lot of people aren't able to, and that's okay. But for me, every time I push myself with any sort of body modification performance or any type of performance or any type of art, I'm always wanting to grow and challenge myself and push myself. And flesh hook suspension has given me this huge reward for doing so. It's an unexplainable feeling, really. So as I stated before, suspension does have a deeper meaning to me, aside from just being really beautiful and impressive to look at and to see someone engage in. It's also something, like I said, that allows me to push myself as an artist and a performer and the limits of my body. And it also is a way for me to come to peace with my body. I've struggled a lot over my life. I used to be very overweight. I had a lot of body dysmorphia, and suspension is also a way for me to reclaim my body and to do something with my body that I take pride in and that I am proud of, and to be happy existing in this vessel. It's really done a lot for me as a person, and it's something that I'm very grateful for being able to do so often and with people who get that and for people who support me in that.
Lover, a demon brother, or a dog that you don't gotta feed. 'Cause if you want a best friend who can
I can't recall off the top of my head how many times I've been suspended. It probably less than most people would think. I did my very first suspension, I believe, when I was 26 or 27. It was on my birthday. That was my birthday present to myself. And I did my chest. I did a 2-point suspension from my chest. That was my very first one, which when I tell people, they're usually like, oh my God, that's a big one. But that was how I envisioned it for myself. I wanted to be suspended as the sun was setting outside from my chest, and I did it. I was up for a pretty good amount of time. I went up 3 times, and I pulled myself up on the last one, and that was the first suspension I ever did. The first suspension I ever did with Cyanide Circus was a resurrection, so I did 4 points for my ribs, and that was my first resurrection I ever did was with them. So a lot of firsts, and yeah, from my very first suspension until that resurrection with Cyanide, it was 10 years since I had suspended. So I did it once and kind of lost access to the team and the person who I was doing it with. There was some stuff that went down, but not on my end. But yeah, there was a kind of falling out of communication and falling out of the scene for them. And so when I finally found another team and really clicked, it was such an amazing experience. And then to be invited was even more of an amazing experience. And I've been honored to work with such wonderful people ever since. What I enjoy most about suspension is how resilient the human body is. It's fascinating, the science behind being able to hang from your skin. It's remarkable the things the human body can endure for beauty and for art and for performance. And that's probably one of my favorite things about suspension. It touches on so many things and so many different things to so many people. So some people might do it for purely spiritual reasons. Some people might do it for purely performance reasons. I'm somewhere in the middle, but there's no wrong reason to do it. I mean, unless you're forced to do it or you're not consenting to it, I mean, then that's a reason you shouldn't do anything. But whatever personally that you want to do it, whether you just think it looks cool and you want to try it, whether it's just something different, whether it will give you this profound experience. I think if you have an interest and you do your research and you work with people who are knowledgeable and safe, then I think you will have a good time, and I think you should try it. The piercing experience is really different. This is my kitty. So I obviously have a lot of piercings. I used to be a piercer and a tattoo artist, and it's the different sizes of needles isn't so much of a thing. I honestly find smaller needles to be more stingy, but certain areas are more stingy. Like chest, I find to be a little more of a burny sensation as opposed to back, or knees seem to be a bit more burny and stingy as opposed to, you know, some other areas like my ribs. It's, as far as like pain-wise, people always ask how much it hurts or this and that. I can't really explain that for you. I don't think anyone adequately can. Everyone's pain tolerance, pain levels are different depending on what area of your body. For me, it's more of a pressure and a pop in most situations. And the piercing part isn't really the most intimidating for me. At this point, I'm not intimidated. It's more of an excitement for how is this going to feel? How is this new sensation going to be? I like the whole experience. I like the piercing sensation. I like feeling, of the pulling against the skin. I like to feel that exact moment when all your weight is on the hooks. And for me, every single sensation involved is an important part of the process. So the piercing being a very important sensation to experience during the process. To me, suspension, it's a feeling that unless you've experienced it, I can't really compare it to anything else that I've felt. It's flying, which is pretty cool. It's just this out-of-body, otherworldly experience. Sometimes when I am suspending, I will be outside of my body and I'll look at myself and I'll be like, this is happening. Like, I'm doing this. This is amazing. Like, it's so incredible. It's so euphoric. You get this rush, and every time it's different. I could do the same position and it feels different. I've done my knees quite a bit, done my ribs a few times now, and each time was different than the last. So there's that excitement about suspending where I'm just thinking, what's it going to be like this time? What's going to happen this time? How different is it going to be? If I'm doing a completely new area, how is this going to be different than another area I've done? And when I'm hanging, how is it different from other places I've hung? I like being upside down. I like my knees. I like being upside down. So that one's kind of fun. But yeah, I can't describe it in a way to compare it to anything else. It's hard to say how I mentally prepare for a suspension. For me, I am one of those people who always thinks of the worst case scenario, which is terrible. I am always thinking this is gonna hurt so bad, this is gonna be, so painful, you are gonna push through, like, you can do this. And I can tell you it's never been nearly as bad as I've ever imagined it to be. A lot of people, when they watch me get pierced or when they watch me suspend, go, you don't even look like it hurts, like, you don't even flinch. And no, because I put myself in this headspace of, this is something I'm going to do. I am going to push through whatever obstacles come about. I'm going to challenge myself, and I'm going to do this. And so I'm mentally in my head running over, I'm always running over safety stuff. I'm always running over the risks, because I think you should know the risks of doing anything that's this extreme, and that comes with its own set of natural risks inherently. You can be with the most professional, most experienced people, and when you're putting holes in your body and hanging from them, you could have stuff happen, and that's the nature of the beast. But I'm always thinking of those, making sure to be as prepared for those as possible, and I'm also getting excited. I'm excited to go up and see what it's going to be like that time. How I physically prepare for a suspension is I make sure I'm as well rested as possible, I'm as hydrated as possible, that I have eaten, and that I'm not just loaded up on carbs and sugar, that I've eaten like a well-balanced meal, I've had a lot of protein, that I don't have anything else physically going on that would hinder the experience, and that my body is in the top shape it can be to do it in that moment. I do have some like chronic pain stuff, I do have some things, but I try to make sure I'm taking care of myself the best that I can, and especially on that day, those things are really important because that can determine your experience. That can determine how your body reacts, and your body is going to react in the best possible way when you're treating your body in the best possible way. As far as self-care goes for after a suspension, I'm not really like an aftercare kind of person. I don't necessarily feel like I need anything in that regard. Obviously, after suspension, I make sure, again, that I eat, that I have protein, that I'm hydrated, that I am getting cleaned up, that the air is getting massaged out of the piercings after the suspension, because that's something you need to do to make sure your air doesn't get trapped in there. I shouldn't say I'm doing it, my team is doing it, but that's something as part of like caring for yourself afterwards. And then the following days, I'm making sure to be in touch with the rest of my team, letting them know how I'm feeling, letting them know how I'm feeling mentally, physically, updating them with pictures of how the piercing sites are doing, if I'm having any noticeable complications, and just taking care of the wounds and taking care of myself. That's really what I do.
Inky, would you like to play these people a song?
Hold on, my boob's coming out. Cyanide suspension. Hanging around. Cyanide suspension. I got hooks in my knees and it's pretty cool. You all having fun tonight? Yeah! Everybody say yeah! Yeah! You truly had it too. Would I recommend suspension to friends? I would recommend suspension to anyone who has seen it, who it has struck some kind of chord within you for whatever reason. Again, whether it's artistic, whether it's spiritual, whatever your reason is, for whatever reason, if you're drawn to suspension, and again, if you do your research, if you find knowledgeable people to work with and to facilitate it, and you have mentally prepared yourself for that, I think you should try it. Do I think everyone is going to enjoy it that tries it? No. But I think everyone who attempts it that has had an interest will at least develop some sort of understanding or some sort of meaning from that experience. Even if you don't get off the ground, even if you just get pierced, even if you just do a pull. I think it's something so visceral and it touches on something in people, good or bad, because there's people who have very negative reaction to it. But I think if you're someone who sees that and has a very positive reaction, it's worth exploring inside yourself why you're drawn to it. And then if the reasons you're drawn to it lead you to want to try it, then I think under those circumstances that I said, under the right circumstances, with the right people, I absolutely think it can be a fulfilling experience either way. So in that way, I would recommend it to friends. I wouldn't recommend it on a whim. I wouldn't recommend it just maybe catching a glimpse of it once and being like, that's cool, I'm gonna do it tomorrow. It's something I definitely think you need to sit with and think about and weigh the pros and cons and weigh the risks and weigh the rewards. And if it's something for you, then I say go for it.